watching? Who's watching me?
James had asked us to gather together. He's got some news for us, so basically I think I'll just turn it over to Judge James.
All righty. I'm going to stand up just because that's the way I like to address people. I'm going to circle the wagons for a little bit, and this is going to be information that everyone in this room already knows. It's how did we get to where we are? Now, did we get to where we are because someone had a wonderful vision one day? Yes. I believe we have some people back here who can take credit for that. This building that we're in came from somebody thinking out of the box, and it came from people with something, a mindset of let's not just stay where we are, let's move forward. And I can appreciate that. We advance forward. We start to build this building, and no sooner than we get the building started, we have a property tax variation that was passed at the state legislature's level. We were at a 5-year fixed valuation. So we knew going forward for the next 5 years, our property taxes were going to be right here. And we knew that the library board had saved this much money. And we knew that we were solvent and solid. And we knew that the building could be paid for. Well, no sooner than construction started, that changed to a 3-year variable rolling average on property values and on mineral values, because a lot of our taxes are generated off the Fayetteville Shale because we're impacted greatly by natural gas. So we swallow that hit. And then natural gas prices plummeted, and we swallow that hit. And then we have our most key player in the Fayetteville Shale, instead of pay their taxes, file suit against the county. And we swallowed that hit. Does this mean that someone had too good of a vision? No. Does this mean that we built something that we couldn't pay for? No, not at the time. This means that life happened. How many times do we purchase a car or purchase a house, and then we have something happen? We get sick, or our kids get sick, and we face a tough financial crisis. It happens. It's life. So the library board had to answer to several key players. We have White River Planning and Development involved, because White River Planning and Development is our leaseor. Or I guess is that how you say a leaseor? We're the leasee. We're making the bond payment because it's a bond-backed loan, so it's not just a simple loan. We have First Service Bank as a player. We have bonding agents that are players. So when we saw that, well, things may not be as financially bright as we had hoped, we need to get the key players together and figure a way out of this. The board was told by some key players, you need to go after a millage increase. And they swallowed that, and they did. And it was being held by a special election, much to the disdain of some. But through all this, we saw our tight-knit community kind of divide. And I didn't like that. And I think what we're going to present here in a little bit should bring us all back together in a way that we haven't been brought together before. We're going to circle around the wagon even farther. We have several different issues at the county level that's on our plate. We have a 2024 mandate by fire departments to be up to a certain standard, or some fire departments could face closure or consolidation. What's that going to do to someone who is beyond that 5 miles of an existing fire station? Their ISO automatically goes to a 10, which if you have the insurance that is strongly attached to your ISO rating, could skyrocket, could more than double. So we've got to work with that. We also have built a lot onto the hospital, and we have relatively little in a maintenance fund to protect that investment. Should something go wrong, should we need to fix a roof, should we have some drainage issues, or who knows what, because as we've already said, life happens, but we don't have the proper mechanism in place to be ready for that. We are also all well aware of the issues that we faced last year concerning 911 and 911 funding and the fair share that received so much press that in itself kind of took a very tight-knit community and separated us out. So here is what we propose, and here's what has happened. There were some legal issues with the millage. The millage special election will not happen. Let me repeat. The millage special election on October 8th will not happen.
Can I ask clarification why?
I'll get into that in just a moment. We'll have a question and answer. So where does that leave us? Does that leave us going after some different taxes for different means? Or what does that mean for the future of the county? It means we have a lot of issues that we have to work through. I had already committed to an emergency services tax, to extend the hospital tax, or to go ask the voters to extend the hospital tax. That penny would have a sunset. It'd be out there a ways, 30 years. That would be a 1/4 cent to protect our investment at the hospital, 1/2 cent to be divided evenly among the fire departments, and 1/4 cent to fund 911, Office of Emergency Management, some Sheriff's Department, whatever we need for emergency services under that umbrella. When the issue with the library came up, Philip came to me and he asked if they could be a part of that. And I thought, well, it'd be a pretty big stretch to call a library an emergency service. But it just kind of hit. Give them the first 12 months of that tax and defer the emergency services for simply 12 months. Because I don't know if you believe in a higher power, but I definitely believe in God. I think it's more than coincidence that the amount we owe on the library is almost identical to the amount generated by 1 penny 1 year via sales tax. So that puts us in the position to where we can all come together and we can all support the same penny that we've been used to paying. It's not a tax increase, it is simply a tax continuation. We protect our fire departments, we pay off our library lickety-split, we operate the library within the mill that's generated, the way it was always meant to be. It just means that because life happened, we aid the library for 1 penny 1 year, and it's over. There's a bridge there that needs to be crossed because that penny won't start being generated for the library until the hospital bond is paid off, which is estimated to pay off November 1 of 2020. So we're looking at November 1 of 2020 to roughly November 1 of 2021. And I asked Darla to be here because the bank has informally agreed to work with us to get us past that gap. So we don't have to face a closure of the library. So I think this is great. This is win, win, win. We're going to protect everyone's ISO ratings by hopefully bringing everyone's fire ISO ratings down. Because that 1/2 cent divided among the fire departments will help them make that 2024 mandate in a manner that's going to exceed what is required. And it's going to be better for all of us. We're going to protect our investment at the hospital because it would be very unwise for us to build a multi-million-dollar structure and only tuck away $100,000 a year to be able to protect that investment. It also is going to allow us to preserve the things that we have to have. 911, Sheriff's Office, Office of Emergency Management, all our emergency services, while at the same time preserving and protecting the building we're in, which is more than just a building. It's a big, wonderful service. So all we have to do is pass the sales tax extension. We're already used to paying it. It's not a tax increase by any means. And we're not sure how it's going to look on the ballot yet. I spoke with a bond attorney just moments ago. It may be a question of, or an answer of yes, yes, yes. Or it may be yes, yes, or maybe one yes. We're not sure yet. And I'm sure there are going to be a lot of things wiggle around with this by the time we get from here to there. But we have been told this is doable, and we can make this work. It's perfectly legal. It's perfectly within our realm and within our right. All we have to do is get the legal wording set up right. I think we have a much greater chance of passing this than we did a millage, since that fell apart anyway. I think I feel disappointed in myself because I should have thought of this as plan A, but I didn't. But I think it's a very, very good plan B. I'm very excited about it, and I think this will help secure the future of Van Buren County. Questions, and you have the first one.
Yeah, so when we started into this, we had a legal view which the library board got, which said this is the way we should go with it, and we met all of the requirements of that. And you're now saying that it's not possible for what reason?
The reason that happened is because there was an Amendment 38 that the library operated this millage request under. Amendment 38 also has an amendment to that, which is Amendment 72. Wrapped up in all of these, there's also a Title IX. I found out last Friday that even though we were falling under Amendment 38, the petitions explicitly stated Amendment 38, it still would have needed to go to the quorum court to be approved for the special election. The way Amendment 38 reads, it was very clear. It said when the question is brought to the electorate, it shall be brought before the electorate. So we had some conflicting laws. That's why we had attorneys, and we had several attorneys that finally said, well, it should have gone before the quorum court at least 60 days in advance. So we've missed the October 8th deadline.
Is this in black and white somewhere?
I'm sure Chad can help you find it in black and white. Go ahead.
Do you want me to?
You bet. You bet.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know who I am. I'm Chad Brown. I was actually on the library board.
I've got that one out.
January.
On your phone.
Yeah, that's right. I was actually on the library board in January when this issue came up, and because it seemed pretty obvious that there was going to need to be some county involvement on this, because my spouse Nikki is on the quorum court, I actually resigned from the library board, and then Kelly Tester was appointed to take over my position. So just kind of background, I've kind of had my hands on this library issue a little bit, and on the legal sense, on the kind of the background, I've been supportive of what was going on. The library board retained counsel, separate counsel, to see through this millage vote that they wanted to pursue. And there was a petition passed around that went and accomplished that. And it looked, as me, who's someone who's not an expert in election law, nor am I an expert in bond issues, it looked to me like it comported with what was required by Amendment 38. And I would have told you without looking deeper into it that it was. My advice was that we need to have someone that had some experience on this to get it pushed through, though. So it looked like everything was kind of on track to have a millage vote. And actually it was some counsel that was involved on one of the other parties' end that took a look at this, and he's someone who had about 40 years of experience in actually having libraries built. It's specific to library bonding issues. Took a look at this and raised it in the Friday meeting that, look, I think there's a problem in that you can't meet this 60-day deadline, that something needs to happen. I called him up Monday because I was at the Friday meeting. I called him up Monday just sort of trying to understand this on the county's end of this, and he convinced me that yes, that there is a need for the county to have taken some action that wasn't taken. And what it would have been an ordinance simply to put it on the ballot, and it had to have been done within 60 days of the election. And by the time the issue was raised, we were at 52 days of the election, so it was impossible to make the October 8th deadline. So to ask whether it's set in stone, it's one of those things where, yeah, maybe we could have a lawsuit and find out if it's an illegal tax or not. That's not the way you want to do taxes, though. You're opening yourself up for liability for an illegal exaction. It's just a bad idea. I'm firmly of the opinion that it would be a bad idea for an election to push through. The petitions came through and they were certified. So there is this issue that the 100 voters plus did request an election, but you can't compel the county when the election must happen. And that's the issue that you have now. And the county simply cannot do the 60-day now because they're within 60 days of October 8th. So that's the answer of what the legal issue is.
One follow-up question then. If which the judge is suggesting as on May forward, if that does not pass the vote, do we have the opportunity to go back to the millage?
That is an ability that is there. That's what makes Amendment 38 somewhat unique. It's one of very few taxes that are voter initiatives. It's a voter-initiated election for the tax, and the county at some point would be mandated to act to put it on the ballot. You can't choose when they have the election, but you can mandate an election if it's needed. And that's a remedy that's available to any 100 electors could come together and come up with that petition. So Amendment 38 is still there, but there's also the county government law that says the county has to take some sort of formal action, and that didn't happen here.
So
I would just simply add also, it did not happen because of some intentional act from someone. It appears to have been an oversight from someone's end. I mean, that's my take.
No. So it's the second oversight we've had on this issue, which worries me actually.
And again, the library, in my opinion, the library did what they need to do. They went and got counsel to push that through, and that's.
Okay. It does bring up the second part of that though. What happens if there's a no vote on redistribution of this 1%?
If there's a no vote, it's back to the table.
It just delays us by
Just delays us.
nothing
So
else.
when will this vote take place?
Those are, we're going out into the sky with what ifs now.
I know, but
So-
you know that we're left in.
Well, this would be March 3rd. If you were to look at gathering signatures, getting a petition, you're talking 70 days out. You'd have to have time for it to pass the quorum court. You're looking at maybe even as far as 90 days out, 120 days out. So from March 3rd.
I think she's just asking, we're talking about the sales tax continuance vote.
Oh, mhm.
That will be in March of 2020, won't it?
That vote
that's
will
what
be
she
on the
said.
March. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that vote will be on the March 3rd ballot.
No action necessary by the library board to make that happen.
No. No, because it's not a special election. It's just it's on the primary ballot.
I've seen the library a bunch of interest, for sure.
It would. It would. Our payoff is a little north of 1.9 million, and the tax on 1 year's time generates a little north of 1.9 million. It's perfect. It's perfect fit. Perfect marriage. Just one and done. 1 penny for 1 year and done. We get to move on.
But it's still a case of if it passes.
If it passes, that's where we come in. We're going to push it. We're going to sell tax because This is real easy. We're not asking people to pull money out of their pocket. We're asking people to live within the same means we've been living for a while, for quite some while. I'm not even sure when the hospital tax was passed. It's been a few years. 2001-ish, okay.
I
Yes.
appreciate you thinking about this and it weighing on your mind, you know, and it works so much better when everybody comes together and starts picking at each other and nitpicking, and I'd rather see people come together than be divided.
Right. We have a lot of parties that are vested in this. So, I think we can make it happen.
I don't think any of us got any sleep after Friday's meeting.
No, I don't. I know I slept very little this weekend.
So what do we need? What's the next steps?
Next step is to get your friends and neighbors to vote yes. Vote yes on the extension. Just keep reinstating. This is the future of the county, and it's not going to cost us anything additional. We're just stretching out what we're already accustomed to paying.
And I might add one more thing. I believe the figure is like 60% of our sales tax come from out of county anyway. So,
Absolutely.
Dale, I have just a quick question.
Yes.
I know from questions that I got, just to clarify, you had said that there might be, we're not sure how it's gonna be written. But there could be multiple boxes that needed to be checked.
Possibly.
But, it sounds like the way that this is gonna be written, it wouldn't, just to make, because I know people have asked me this a lot, you couldn't just check other things and leave the library off, like this would be a bundle.
This will be a bundle.
Okay, okay.
As far as I
All for
understand.
one for all.
As far as I understand it, yes.
Pulls the county together on common.
I know a few years back when the hospital tax was presented to the people, it was a yes vote. Was it 3 yeses? It was yes vote. Good questions. What else?
I wanted to tell everybody, everything with the special election was ready to go. So money has already been spent. We were just waiting on the election. So we're gonna have to decide when all the bills come in, whose responsibility that is.
I think we ordered the PEDs and we ordered some paper ballots for.
How much has been spent so far?
Have we received the bills yet?
We hadn't received the bills yet.
Yeah, you have some idea?
Not right offhand, no.
Well, I'm sure we're responsible for it, just like we've always understood we would be, and the library will pay their share. All we've asked was how much and when, so we realize now we have to pay a part of it. Of course, we're not having to pay poll workers, so that saves us a ton of money.
That's
Frugal,
a lot of
frugal board
savings.
at work for you.
What else? I was talking with our librarian yesterday when I was running this by her, and I said I'm going to issue you a small challenge, and that is to find some way of opening this building back up on Fridays.
With a quarter of the budget.
It's okay. We can do it. Really? Well, what?
I see, no, I'm not arguing that,
No, I
because
know.
I think that it should be available to the patrons, because a lot of people have been inconvenienced without having the access to the library, and Saturday, 3 hours is not sufficient. But I know some people don't think, do much anyway. A lot of this stuff, we carry the load over, and we end up picking up what could be several people's jobs for one person, and we're being stretched, And so I don't know how you make that work, but of course, we always try and do what we can for our patrons. But you can't operate by continuously cutting. It's just not going to work.
we have to operate responsibly. But there are some things you just can't cut.
And there are some things we can't.
Yeah.
We'll work through that. Anything else?
I would just echo what Justice Brown said about language on ballots. Pulaski County famously passed, had an election, they had 2 boxes to check. Voters voted to build buildings, but not to put people in them or operate them. So now Pulaski County is on the bad end of that decision, having to go back to the voters again. But yeah, if it can be as simple as possible, I think that will really benefit everybody here.
And we're working on getting a sample ballot drafted as fast as possible, and it will be run by the board before it's approved. So. Anything else?
The difference in time, you talked about this wouldn't take effect until 2021, hate that camera, is, you said that the bank has agreed to assist in that endeavor for that lack of time there.
Yes. That sounds awfully vague, and at this point it is, because we haven't written anything or signed on the dotted line yet. But it could very likely be that we could get by with a year of interest only. Did you want to say anything, darling?
No, I mean, I agree with that. I think it's, right now, we had the meeting Friday, and we just wanted to make sure that we have certain things in place so that we have changes happening, and we know where we're all at, so we're not just kicking a can down the road and in the same position a year or 2 years down the road. Obviously, the bank's, worked with the library all this time through all of it from the very beginning, so we're very community oriented, and we want to for sure make it successful and want to see it thrive. So we're going to work with them however we need to. We just have to make sure we have a good plan, and that it's a legal plan, that we are following all the rules. We all had our attorneys there, and we were all racking our brains for, I don't know, a good 2 hours for sure. I think we were all sitting there, so we just want to make it successful for sure.
What else?
And once it's paid, it's the county's. I mean, it's done.
Yes. You guys had the vision of this being paid off really fast in 10 years. We're pulling that back to what, 5? That's great. That's great.
How do we sustain the operating costs once we have the building paid for?
From the millage.
They already have one.
Library always has their own fund.
And you don't see, the millage is not gonna increase, and so is our operating?
Actually, the millage is gonna, the millage rate is not gonna increase. The amount that the mill brings in is gonna increase, because at some point, and we're not sure when, we're gonna be out of a lawsuit. And there's gonna be some funds released. We're not sure what that amount's gonna be, but there will be some funds released.
But even operating in the one mill that exists shouldn't be a problem. Because if the building's paid, basically how it's been is they have a payment of $330 per year, and then they operate on about the same amount. Their mill brings in about $310. Is that what we kind of talked about? So they should be able, even if the mill stayed the same as it did last year, it shouldn't, of course, look at the budget and see what there is, but shouldn't be difficult, I wouldn't think, to work within that mill existing.
With the cuts we've made.
If the building is paid off.
We should be fine. What we said all along, it was gonna be next to impossible to operate and pay debt return. We just hated the thought of having to stretch it out for over a 30-year period, because then we're paying $4 million. So, no one gets everything they want, but everybody's getting a little bit of something in this, and I think it's something that'll pull us all together instead of dividing.
I hope that we're having the foresight to say, how much, how long are we gonna be able to sustain this at this operating level without having to go back?
Right, with the cuts that they've made, because they have made the board has made quite a few cuts already. Really, if the millage were to stay the same as it did this previous year, I don't think that they think they'll have any problems if you take the building payment out.
You know, people come up with, man, we should have been having bake sales and cookie sales and this and that. Had they known that we were having such an issue, you can't have enough bake sales to raise $330,000, but we can raise a 15 or 20,000 if we might be short on operating money. So yeah, I think everybody feels comfortable going forward and moving forward without the burden of a huge debt payment. So I think it's.
And also volunteer on their taxes too.
And all we're doing, back to that one point, we're offering the library an assistance of 1 penny. 1 penny for 1 year. That's not a lot for the library. For a building like this that we can be proud of forever, that's very inexpensive. That we're already used to paying.
So what is a volunteer to take, a library volunteer on the taxes?
No, it's whatever they want to pay.
Yeah, but
It's voluntary.
it is?
Mhm.
It's at the very bottom of the tax statement. It is actually based on, it'll set an amount in there, and I can't remember if it's a quarter, what you normally pay.
It's a
It may
one
be,
mil.
okay.
I
But,
thought it
yeah.
was too, when Barry Phillips.
Mine is $8 if I wanna pay the
I
voluntary
know,
tax.
I know, it's wrong, yeah, okay.
But also think, and people need to realize, they can pay more on there. We can accept more than the minimum voluntary that we're asking for. We can always accept donations from anybody. It's a 501c3. It could be tax deductible, but since we're not tax accountants, we can't say that they are, but check with your attorney. Send a check.
Bill, this group you got here, we'll start selling this out there to the public.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do it, but let's kind of encourage them to volunteer. I started paying
Oh,
that a
yeah.
couple years ago, you know, I mean, it don't cost you much.
Who should be supporting this extension of this 1 cent tax? Everyone who has fire protection,
Yeah.
everyone who has used or is going to use the library, everyone who has kids or grandkids who are going to use this library, everyone who wants to pick up the phone and dial 911 and have someone at the other end of the line, someone who wants to be able to call 911 and have an officer show up at their house, because through the emergency services umbrella, some of that money is going to be distributed over to the sheriff's department. If we have a tornado rip our county in half again, do we need an emergency management team that's ready to roll? Anyone who wants that, we should vote yes, 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 however many times we have to vote yes on this tax. And if this, let me reiterate, if this were an additional tax, this would be very hard to swallow, but since we're already accustomed to it, it's a no-brainer. Let's just move forward with the county. We can position this county for growth for years to come.
It's perfect, everybody wins, it's not just only the landowners, it's everybody that goes to the county, that spends money, so it's perfect.
Well, exactly, if it doesn't pass, it's gonna be a major burden all the way around.
If it doesn't pass, it's going to be detrimental. And we have to choose if we want to maintain business as usual or vote no and probably face some kind of tax by another means. Because we're operating as a county at a 2008 level of spending. What has increased in price since 2008? Our health care has just blown up. Minimum wage has increased. People's payroll, every single thing that we buy has increased since 2008, yet we're still spending at that 2008 level. So something's got to give, and now this is just the perfect time to budge.
And just to go back to what you said, because I think that is an issue that a lot of people have, that we're gonna be responsible going further. And I know that they talked about it in their last library board meeting, and there wasn't a concrete number. But I would say annualize what y'all have already cut, at least $60,000. I mean, wouldn't you say? I mean, in that realm, because,
It was more than that.
yeah, I think it was more than that, but to be conservative, so there has been, they have really been working. And I think that that's something that the public needs to know, that that's important.
37.3% of the budget was cut.
How much, I'm sorry?
37.3%.
I want to point one thing, John. This library budget is at Damascus too. Is it the Damascus librarian and so forth is paid out there?
I'm gonna say one more time, we've got to sell this, so.
Yes.
See, look, buddy, you don't pass this, all right, a little more tactful.
Let's not call them look buddy.
Let's say, look, folks, your insurance premium's gonna skyrocket if you don't keep them ISO ratings down.
Well, it's not only that, but it's gonna affect the fire department, it's gonna affect the library, it's gonna affect the hospital, it's gonna affect 911, it's gonna affect everybody, because then the county general has to come up with the money to try to pay for that.
Yeah,
And it ain't
it
there.
is. I mean, you know.
Well, I think
And make no bones about it, this is not a city of Clinton tax.
Right,
Or a city of Fairfield Bay or Damascus or Shirley or whatever. This is an everybody tax. And this isn't a Republican or a Democrat tax or a fair versus an unfair tax. We're all paying, but we're all receiving. I couldn't imagine a more fair tax if there was ever a way to call a tax fair. I mean, it really is. We're all receiving benefit from it. Go ahead, Gina. I'm sorry.
Forgot what I said. Enthralled in your.
It's
I was
just,
thinking about new fire trucks. I mean, because recruitment, if you don't have the means to operate at an above or an adequate standard, and that's equipment, turnouts, the buildings, the water sources, and most of all, the people, recruitment of those people. If you don't have those things, you can't expect the community members to put their own life at risk when you're not supporting them, you know? And so I think that recruitment tool is that as a recruitment tool for the fire department.
and what are the common reasons a tax fails? Well, there's no sundown. This one's going to have a sundown. It's 30 years. It's going to take care of us. Our kids can decide how they're going to extend that or do whatever. It'll be on them at that time. Special elections are expensive. This is not a special election. It's going to be on primary ballot. It's not going to cost us anything extra. Other issues could be it doesn't benefit me. This benefits every single person. Every person. Not only just us, but people traveling through who might need 911. Or, you know, if we're traveling through an area and we call 911 because we've had a wreck, we expect them to answer the call in that county as well. So we're taking care of ourselves while.
Infrastructure, y'all. And if we want to see growth within our county, we've got to have a decent infrastructure. And I think this is a good segue into that, developing our infrastructure.
Sure.
I agree. What else? I'm already feeling a sense of everyone coming together, and that makes me feel.
You were
really
talking
good.
about future maintenance for the library. Everything in the library is paid for, and it was paid for by Friends of the Library and grants. A lot of it was grants, and so there's lots of grants that can be written to get things to be replaced.
And while we're being live streamed, let me take this opportunity to tell everyone, lay off the board. The board did what the board was told to do. They had to try to get a millage. They had to try to get a tax. I think we ended up at a perfect place, but they've been to hell and back to get here. They have taken insults, they've taken lashings, they've endured more than anyone should ever endure for a volunteer position. And hats off, thank you. And Stephanie Treese and Glenda Stagg, who aren't here.
That includes the previous boards too.
That's right. And previous boards. And thank y'all for being here. Thanks Carla for being here, and Sonny and Rhonda and Sharon. Thank y'all.
Carla has done a very wonderful job of getting all this together. Back when she was.
It wasn't on me. It was Rhonda and Sonny and a lot of people. Takes a village.
It does.
Thank you.
So, do we have something we can all sell, we can all get behind, we all feel good about?
Let's go get it, Dave.
Let's do it, let's go get it. Okay, turn it back over to you.
I have very little else to say. Thank you, Dale. Thank you all for showing up. I'm glad that hopefully we're doing something that we're all pulling together and it's not a divisive thing, that it's all for one and one for all. I have been misquoted several times as saying I love any kind of tax. I really don't like any of them, but everything costs money, and this is just a fair way to spread it around. Everybody's going to be paying a little, but everybody together, it adds up to a lot, and we'll see a lot of great accomplishments from it. Thank y'all for coming, and everybody get to work on getting people out to vote. Thanks.
Thank you.
Who's watching me?